friends. I don't know any of these extreme left liberals. And out of two people out of hundreds that are actually liberal at all, where are even just the regular liberals at? Because I don't know any. I lived in Ohio and now in Texas. I don't know any. That's my question. Where are they?
Hey, welcome back. I don't know. I don't disagree with some of our callers today. They're pretty much on the money. Most of the people I know and most of the people who watch this show are purple people, that they have tolerance for stuff from both the left and the right, the red and the blue. And most of America, I think 47% of America identifies as independent, whether or not they're in some political party, they think they're independent. And, speaking of celebrating George Washington and Abe Lincoln's birthdays, they were, George Washington was quite the advocate for independence himself. And in his farewell address, he actually was right down here on Wall Street in New York City. And he cautioned against for people not to get lured into the dangers of political parties. And to break that down, among other things, a guy who knows his way around Wall Street and knows a heck of a lot about our founding father, George Washington, Marco Valdivieso, joins us today. How are you, my friend?
Good.
Thank
Glad
you.
to be here.
And you're the author of the book Independent, Like Our Founding Fathers. And if you guys at home who are watching want to be a cool independent like me and Marco, all you got to do is get out of your party. So I'm not in a party myself personally.
Good to hear.
So what's happening, Marco? George Washington has been highlighting some of the stuff. And, he could have been a monarch, he could have been a king, he could have been anything he wanted. He was a war hero and a leader on the political side of the people. And he chose to always take the humble route on all that stuff. How do we get to here now?
That's true. He was against parties since the beginning, and he only served 2 terms. They weren't called terms back then, but he could have run for his whole life if he wanted to. Those laws didn't come in until much later on. But just learning from his cabinet, he had a mix of his friends, and they were opposing sides, so he couldn't get anything done within his own administration. So some say that was part of him just saying, I think this is good enough, I'm out of here.
So you think he almost found some solace in having a bipartisanship because they'd just cancel each other out to some extent?
Exactly. They weren't focusing on the tasks at hand, which is developing the country. They're more against central government or more state-run ideas. So they were completely bipolar, and he couldn't get anything done.
Well, he was smart enough to not drag it out. Yeah. And I guess that's why these days we're celebrating his birthday today. Exactly.
I mean, the party started after the Constitution was written. So there's nothing that binds these parties to any legal document. The Electoral College is the only thing that's in the Constitution, and they wanted it that way. But somehow it just blew up. And
how many more presidents throughout time have shared similar thoughts as Washington about the dangers of political parties?
Well, there's Zachary Taylor, John Tyler, and Andrew Johnson were also independent. A lot of people don't know that because they weren't belonging to one party. 2 of them were VPs from Lincoln's death and then Harrison's death as well, so they took over. So they weren't really with their party, so they did whatever they felt like was needed to help the country.
And other presidents throughout time have accordingly said that the government is the problem, not the people.
Well, this country has really wealthy people, really poor people, everything in between, and you can't belong to one ideal and make everyone happy. You have to go bipartisan, and that's part of what independents do. They go. They're either bipartisan or they just want the best person for the job at that moment in time.
When I see some of these presidential candidates on the Democrat side, like Bernie Sanders in particular, many people probably who aren't wonks don't know he's not a Democrat, right? He's an independent. So he's not even a member of the Democratic Party. And And I think it shows because he doesn't really embrace all the same things the establishment
exactly,
does.
but neither is Bloomberg. He was a Democrat most of his life till he ran for mayor. He ran for mayor as a Republican, and then the third run he did as an independent on the Republican and independent side. It's called fusion politics when you belong to two parties, but they add them all up. And so Sanders is just like him. He's using the Democrats' side to be able to run, because you can't run as independent because most primaries are closed to independents.
Well, here in New York, we have an arcane system. But on the national schedule, I want to pick your brain because you know so much about presidents and presidential history, the importance of remaining independent. You, at some point, worked on, rounding up some independent supporters for Mike Bloomberg.
Yes.
And it looks like these days he's having some serious problems with Al Sharpton. He's having some serious problems with minorities. A lot of stuff is coming out with him on how he's talked to and treated women in the past in his business life. Has he reached out to you yet? Because it looks like he's going to need to find some new voters in the independent side.
I think so, but Bernie has as well. They both need to be more centralized, because independents like more central people. If you're too much Republican, too extreme liberal, you're going to scare these independents because they want someone that's solid, it's going to help out the country and move things along, and not. He lost a lot of independent backing when he converted into a Democrat once Hillary. He had to back up Hillary.
Right.
So he lost a lot of independents there. So it remains to be seen.
Being I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, I get to kind of weigh in on both sides, And I have this theory going. I don't know if you saw this, but the people who created the app that counted the votes in Iowa was this company, Shadow, and it was founded by a whole bunch of Hillary supporters,
yes, exactly,
right? So I think there's some validity to them causing a big muckety mess in Iowa, and not letting anybody dart out of there as a clear leader. And I guess New Hampshire followed suit where they were kind of both neck and neck. Now Bloomberg every day is clicking up. What do you make of this story out there that Bloomberg might choose Hillary as his VP?
Boy, I don't think that would be a good idea. It's just too much history on Clinton's side.
If the Bernieites get nudged out again, if the Bernie bros get bumped out again, and the ticket is Bloomberg Hillary, I think that's a recipe for disaster for them, because all those Bernie folks will stay home and say, we got jobbed again.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's a good idea if he does that. It's a little too extreme. I'm sure there's going to be tension if that does happen before, after, and during the presidency. But if we could go back to the Iowa caucuses, I think you mentioned primaries earlier. That's when you go in and you fill a little ballot, the thing, whatever. Yep. And that's like a normal thing. But caucuses are a little weird because each state makes up their own rules. Some of them are very informal. They go into groups and then try to talk each other out of the. I think it's just it's.
You think we need to get one standardized? You think
just do everything primary?
You think the founding fathers would be all for independent, partyless elections held on Saturday afternoons so everyone can go out and vote?
Yeah, they want the best person. Parties have nothing to do with it. They just wanted the best person to do the job.
My co-host Frank talks all the time about this theory where they've done, I guess, in other countries where they just randomly elect the whole legislature for like 2 years or 4 years. How long, Frankie?
It varies.
Varies, but anyone can basically get elected. And I think with an 18% approval rating, America would probably be better off like that than what we have right now.
Yeah.
You think so?
I agree. I mean, even so, there's so many issues with the election system. Like in Iowa, Bernie Sanders won by popular vote, but Pete won by
state
the
delegate equivalents.
Yeah. And that's by 2000 something. And if you go to Biden and Amy, they also lost by 2000 something, but he got 5 more than she did. So you have 1 in the same amount of people.
Something's got to give there, I would say. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you joining us.
Sure.
Marco Valdivieso is the author of Independent Like Our Founding Fathers. And coming up is another great author, Mike Ritter, coming up next. And hopefully we'll take a little look at the lighter side of things when we talk about Tasteless right after this.